I was kicked out because they suspected me of stealing my sister's wedding ring, but it never left the house and they only found it 3 years later, too late for a family reunion. Now, I never imagined I would be telling this story, but here it goes. My name is Elliot. I'm 26 years old. And 3 years ago my life was turned upside down by a false accusation made by my older sister Gemma. I grew up in a small town in Ohio with my parents, John, who is 55, and Lisa, who is 53, along with my sister Gemma. We lived in a modest 2-story house that my parents bought when they first got married. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. My father worked as a high school math teacher, and my mother was a nurse at the local hospital. They weren't wealthy, but they always made sure we had everything we needed growing up. Gemma and I were very close as kids. We spent hours playing in our backyard, climbing the old oak tree, and inventing complicated games. She was always the leader, coming up with the rules and storylines, while I was happy just following along. As we got older, though, things began to change. Gemma had always been an overachiever. She was at the top of her class, captain of the debate team, and seemed to excel at everything she tried. I was different. I was more laid back. I did okay in school, but I was never as driven as Gemma. As we moved through our teenage years, that difference started to affect our relationship. By the time Gemma left for college, we had grown apart. She went to a prestigious university on a scholarship, while I stayed local and enrolled at the community college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, so I took different classes trying to figure it out. After graduating, Gemma moved to the city and started working at a large marketing agency. She would come home for holidays and occasional weekends, always bringing stories about her exciting life and successful career. I couldn't help but feel inferior. While she was building a career in the city, I was still living at home, working part-time at the local grocery store, and trying to figure out what direction my life should take. Even with our differences, I always believed Gemma and I were still okay. We weren't as close as we used to be, but I assumed that was just part of growing up. I had no idea how quickly everything could fall apart. 3 years ago, Gemma and her boyfriend Tom, who was 31, got engaged. They had been together for 2 years, and everyone was thrilled. Tom was a lawyer from a wealthy family, and my parents absolutely adored him. He proposed with a beautiful diamond ring that had been passed down through his family for generations. Gemma was over the moon and couldn't stop showing it off to everyone. The engagement party was a big event. My parents invited what felt like the entire town to celebrate at our house. I remember feeling a little out of place among all the wealthy people Gemma and Tom had brought from the city. I stuck close to my old high school friends who were still in town, feeling far more comfortable with them than with Gemma's polished social circle. About a month after the engagement, everything fell apart. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I had the day off from work. I was in my room playing video games and enjoying the quiet house. Gemma was visiting for the week, taking time off work to start planning the wedding with our mom. I heard them come back from a shopping trip, chatting and laughing downstairs. I didn't think much of it and went back to my game. About an hour later, I suddenly heard Gemma scream. I ran downstairs to see what had happened, and she immediately accused me of stealing her engagement ring. She said she had taken it off while doing the dishes and left it on the kitchen counter. When she came back to get it, it was gone. I was shocked and immediately denied taking it, but Gemma refused to listen. She kept shouting that I was the only other person in the house, so it had to be me. She started talking about how I had always been jealous of her success, and claimed I probably wanted to sell the ring so I could finally move out and do something with my life. Our parents came home in the middle of the argument, and Gemma told them her version of what happened. To my horror, they believed her completely. My mother started crying, asking how I could do something like that to my own sister. My father just stared at me with disappointment in his eyes. They searched my room and turned everything upside down. They didn't find the ring, but they did find some money I had been saving from my job at the grocery store. It wasn't much, maybe a few $100s. But Gemma immediately pointed it out, claiming I must have sold the ring and that the money came from that. I tried to explain that I had been saving that money for months because I was thinking about taking some classes at the local community college. No one listened. The next few days were a nightmare. My parents and Gemma kept pressuring me to confess and give the ring back. They said they would call the police if I didn't admit what I had done. I was terrified and felt completely alone. No one in my family believed me, and I was treated like a criminal in my own home. I tried reaching out to some of my friends, but most of them had already moved away after high school. The few friends who still remained in town seemed unwilling to get involved in family conflict. I felt more alone than ever. After a week of constant accusations and threats, my parents made a decision that would change my life forever. They told me I had to leave. They said they could no longer trust me, and that I was bringing shame to the family. They gave me 2 days to pack my belongings and move out. I was devastated. I had nowhere to go and no idea what I was going to do. My best friend from high school, Ryan, who was 26 and had recently returned to town after serving in the army, offered to let me stay on his couch for a while, but I knew I couldn't remain there for long. His apartment was small, and he was still trying to get back on his feet himself. I packed everything I could fit into a backpack and an old duffel bag, clothes, books, my laptop, and a few mementos from better times. As I was leaving, I noticed Gemma watching me from the window of her old bedroom. For a moment I thought I saw a hint of doubt in her eyes. But she quickly turned away. Walking out of that house, the only home I had ever known, was the hardest thing I had ever done. I felt betrayed and abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. The most painful part was that I had done nothing wrong. For the next 2 months I moved between Ryan's couch and cheap motels whenever I could afford them. I took whatever odd jobs I could find just to get by. I worked as a dishwasher, a dog walker, and even spent a few weeks on a construction job. It was difficult, but I was determined to prove my innocence and build a life on my own. Eventually, I found a steady job at a warehouse on the outskirts of town. The work was tough, and the hours were long, but the pay was reliable. It wasn't a great salary, but it was enough for me to rent a small room in a shared house with several other warehouse workers. Slowly, I began rebuilding my life. But the pain of what had happened never truly disappeared. I would lie awake at night, replaying everything in my mind, trying to understand how it had all gone so wrong. How could my family turn against me so quickly? How could Gemma, who had grown up with me and knew me better than anyone, believe I would do something like that? I cut off all communication with my family. In the beginning, they tried reaching out several times. My mother left emotional voicemails asking me to come home and fix things. My father sent a few text messages saying we needed to talk. Gemma even came to the warehouse once, but I refused to see her. I couldn't face them after what they had done. To me, they were no longer my family. For 3 years, this was my life. I made new friends at work and in the house where I lived. After long shifts, we would hang out, drink beer, and watch games together. It wasn't the life I had once imagined for myself, but it was mine. And I had built it from nothing. I worked hard and eventually got promoted to shift supervisor at the warehouse. I also started taking online classes to study business management. Slowly, I began figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, but a part of me was always angry and hurt about what had happened. I missed my old life and my family, but I couldn't forgive them for refusing to believe me. The holidays were always the hardest. Whenever I saw families shopping together or heard Christmas music playing, I felt a deep sense of sadness for everything I had lost. Then last week, I received an unexpected email from my father. The subject line simply said, "We need to talk." The message itself was short. It said they needed to meet with me as soon as possible, and that it was about the ring incident. At first I wanted to ignore it like I had ignored all their previous attempts to contact me. But something made me hesitate. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe a small part of me still wanted closure. After arguing with myself for hours, I decided to hear them out. I called my father, and what he told me left me stunned. The ring had been found. Gemma had accidentally knocked it into the garbage disposal while doing the dishes. She only realized it a few days earlier, when the disposal started making strange noises. And they called a plumber to take a look. My father said Gemma was devastated when she realized what had happened and understood that I had been telling the truth all along. He said they all felt terrible about what they had done to me, and wanted to make things right. I hung up the phone feeling a storm of emotions. On one hand, I felt vindicated. I had always been telling the truth, and now everyone finally knew it. But I was also furious. I was angry that it had taken 3 years for the truth to come out. Angry that I had lost so much time with my family. Angry that I had been forced to struggle on my own for so long when I had done nothing wrong. Now I'm standing at a crossroads. My family, they want me to come back home. They say they want to make things right. Gemma has been calling and messaging constantly, asking for forgiveness, but I'm not sure I can forgive them. They pushed me out without hesitation, assumed the worst about me, and left me to survive on my own for 3 years. Part of me wants to tell them all to go to hell and let them live with the shame of what they did to me. But another part of me misses my old life and wonders if there's any way to rebuild what we lost. I don't know what to do. Should I give them a chance to make things right, or should I continue living the life I built for myself without them? I feel torn, and would appreciate some outside perspective on this situation. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It truly helped me process my emotions and decide what to do. After a lot of thinking, I decided to meet with my family. I felt that I owed it to myself to face them and seek some form of closure, even if I wasn't sure about reconciliation. We agreed to meet at a neutral place, a small coffee shop in the next town over. I chose it because it was far enough from our hometown that we wouldn't run into anyone we knew, but close enough that it wouldn't be difficult for everyone to get there. On the day of the meeting, I was extremely nervous. I hadn't seen my family in 3 years, and I had no idea what to expect. I arrived at the coffee shop early and picked a table in the corner where we could have some privacy. When they walked in, it felt like a punch to the stomach. Seeing them after 3 years was overwhelming. My mother started crying the moment she saw me. She looked older than I remembered, with more gray hair and deeper lines around her eyes. My father looked worn out and exhausted. His shoulders slumped as though he were carrying a heavy burden. Gemma couldn't look me in the eyes at first. She seemed smaller and far less confident than the sister I remembered. We sat down, and for a moment no one knew what to say. Then they all began speaking at once, their apologies pouring out. My parents said they had failed as parents by not trusting me, and by throwing me out. They admitted they had regretted their decision every single day since it happened, but that pride and shame had kept them from reaching out sooner. My father had always been a man of few words. Spoke for hours about how he had replayed those days in his mind over and over, trying to understand how he could have been so blind. He said he had always believed he was fair and reasonable, but when it mattered most, his emotions had clouded his judgment. Through tears, my mother told me she had kept my room exactly the way I had left it, hoping that one day I would come back. She said she would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night thinking she had heard me come home, only to remember what had happened. Gemma eventually broke down in tears, saying she would never forgive herself for accusing me and destroying our relationship. She said that when we were younger she had always looked up to me, even though I was the younger one. She admitted she had become so caught up in her own life and problems that she lost sight of what truly mattered. As they spoke, memories from our childhood started rushing back. I remembered how Gemma had defended me when I was bullied in middle school. I thought about all the times we laughed together, shared secrets, and supported each other through difficult moments. Those memories made the betrayal hurt even more. But they also reminded me of the wonderful times we once had. I listened to everything they said, but I still couldn't bring myself to forgive them. The pain and resentment from the past 3 years were still too fresh. I told them I needed time to process everything. They seemed to understand and didn't pressure me further. Before we left, my mom tried to hug me, but I stepped back. I wasn't ready for that kind of closeness yet. The hurt expression on her face almost made me change my mind, but I stood my ground. I needed to protect myself emotionally. After the meeting, I went back to my apartment and spent a long time thinking about what I really wanted. Did I need to return to my old life? Could I ever trust them again? Was it even worth trying to repair our relationship? I realized that while I missed having a family, I had also grown a lot during the past 3 years. I had become independent, stronger, and had built a life for myself, from nothing. I wasn't the same person they had thrown out 3 years earlier. I thought about my job at the warehouse, my online classes, and the friends I had made. I had worked hard to get where I was, and I felt proud of what I had achieved on my own. The idea of giving all that up and going back to my old life didn't feel right. At the same time, I couldn't deny that seeing my family had stirred something inside me. A lot of different emotions came up. Despite everything, I still loved and missed them. I began wondering whether it might be possible to have a relationship with them while still maintaining my independence. After a few days of thinking it over, I made a decision. I called my parents and told them that while I appreciated their apology, I wasn't ready to fully reconcile yet. I explained that I needed more time and space to heal. I also set some clear boundaries. I told them that I was willing to keep minimal contact, but I wasn't going back home, or pretending that nothing had happened. If we were going to maintain any kind of relationship, it had to be on my terms. They sounded disappointed, but they said they understood. They promised to respect my boundaries and give me the time I needed. My mother asked if she could call once a week, just to check in, and I agreed, thinking it might be a good way to slowly start rebuilding trust. As for Gemma, I decided to keep my distance for now. Her actions had hurt me the most, and I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. I told her I needed more time before I could even consider rebuilding a relationship with her. She was upset, but said she understood and would wait until I was ready. It's been a difficult week, filled with emotional highs and lows. There were moments when I questioned my decision, wondering if I was being too harsh or if I was missing a chance to reconnect with my family. But then I remember how quickly they turned against me, and it reminds me that taking things slowly is the right choice. I've also started looking into therapy options. Many people suggested it in the comments, and I think it would help to have a professional to talk to as I navigate this complicated situation. I've never been to therapy before, so I'm a little nervous, but I believe it could really help. For now, my main focus is my job and my studies. I have a big project coming up at work, and I'm determined not to let all this family drama distract me from my goals. I've also been thinking about moving to a better apartment. I've been saving money, and I feel like I might finally be ready to get a place of my own without roommates. Thank you again for all the support. It means a lot to know there are people out there who understand and care, even if we've never met. I'll post another update if anything significant changes. Update 2. It's been almost a month since my last update, and I wanted to share a few developments. I've been sticking to the boundaries I set with my family. We've had a few phone calls and text messages, but nothing too heavy. So far it's been okay. Sometimes it feels awkward, but it hasn't been as painful as I expected. My parents have mostly respected my wishes. They check in occasionally, but don't ask for more than I'm ready to give. I can tell they're trying hard to rebuild trust, but it's a slow process. My mother calls once a week, just like we agreed. At first, those conversations were tense, with long silences, but they have gradually become easier. We use Zua. Only talk about simple things. Her job at the hospital, the weather, or my online classes. It's not much, but it's a start. My father has been sending me short emails now and then, mostly just to check in or share something he thinks I might find interesting. Last week he sent me an article about a new business opening in our hometown. It was a small gesture, but it reminded me of how he used to cut out newspaper articles for me when I was younger. Gemma, however, has had a harder time with the distance I'd put between us. She sent several long emotional messages, apologizing and asking for a chance to make things right. My responses have been brief, simply repeating that I need more time. It hasn't been easy, but I'm standing firm on that boundary. I know she's hurting, but I'm not ready to take on her emotions while I'm still dealing with my own. The biggest development is that I've started therapy. I found a counselor who specializes in family trauma, and we've had a few sessions so far. It's been difficult to revisit all the pain from the past, but I believe it's helping. My therapist is helping me work through my anger and trust issues while also giving me tools for setting healthy boundaries. In our last session, we talked about how the ring incident wasn't just about the accusation itself. It also brought up years of feeling like I never measured up to Gemma's achievements. It made me realize that there were deeper issues in our family long before the ring ever disappeared, and that real healing will require addressing those as well. One unexpected outcome of all this is that I've grown closer to my friends, especially Ryan. They've been incredibly supportive through everything. Ryan even offered to come with me to any future family meetings if I ever want moral support. This whole experience has shown me that family isn't defined by blood alone. Tis about who stands by you when things get difficult. Work has been a welcome distraction. I've thrown myself into my job, and even received a small promotion. I'm now responsible for inventory management during my shift, which comes with more responsibility and a slight pay increase. It feels good to have something positive to focus on. As for my living situation, I've decided to stay where I am for now. It's not much, but it's mine. And it represents the independence I worked so hard to achieve. My parents offered to help me find a better place, but I declined. I need to do this on my own. However, I've started seriously considering options for continuing my education. A state university about an hour away offers night classes, and I'm thinking about applying to their business program. It would be a big step, but I believe I'm ready for it. Overall, I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are harder than others. There are moments when I miss the easy connection we once had as a family. But then I remember how quickly they turned against me, and it reminds me that I can't rush this process. My therapist says it's normal to have mixed feelings about everything. She encourages me to be patient with myself and not feel pressured to forgive before I am truly ready. We've also been working on strategies for dealing with upcoming family gatherings and holidays, which honestly make me more anxious than I'd like to admit. For now, my focus is on healing and building a life I can be proud of, with or without my family. It isn't easy, but I'm hopeful about the future. I'm learning that it's okay to put myself first and that setting boundaries doesn't make me a bad person. Thank you again for your continued support. Your comments and messages have given me strength throughout this process. It's comforting to know that I'm not alone in dealing with family struggles like this. Update 3. It has been 6 months since my original post, so I thought it was time for a final update. A lot has changed over the past few months. The biggest news is that I've decided to move to another state for a new job opportunity. It's a major step forward in my career, and I'm excited about the opportunities ahead. The job is with a logistics company, and the work is similar to what I did at the warehouse, but on a much larger scale. It's a management position, something I've been working toward for quite some time. The salary is significantly higher than what I was earning before, and it also includes benefits like health insurance and a 401 plan. Before making the decision, I had a long conversation with my therapist. We talked about how this move might affect my healing process and my relationship with my family. In the end, we agreed that it could be a positive step for me, an opportunity to truly stand on my own and define myself outside of the family conflict. I told my parents about the move last week. They were surprised and disappointed, but they said they understood. My mother cried a little and said she had hoped we would have more time to rebuild our relationship before I left. My father was quieter, but I could see the disappointment in him as well. They were both worried about me being alone in a new place, but I reassured them that I would be fine. Gemma took the news the hardest. After I told her, she showed up unexpectedly at my apartment, begging me not to leave. She said she felt like she was losing me all over again. It was a difficult conversation, but I stood firm. I told her that this was something I needed to do for myself, and that our relationship wasn't in a place where her opinion could influence my decision. Our relationship has improved somewhat, but it's still far from perfect. We've had several long family dinners over the past few months. They were uncomfortable and awkward at times, but slowly we're learning how to be around each other again. Trust is still a major issue. Sometimes I question their intentions, wondering whether they truly mean what they say, or if they're just trying to ease their guilt. My therapist has been incredibly helpful through all of this. She's helped me understand my emotions and maintain healthy boundaries. She also emphasized that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or pretending the pain never happened. It means letting go of the anger so I can find peace. That idea really stayed with me. While I don't think I'll ever forget what happened, I am trying to forgive my family, not for their sake, but for my own. Carrying around so much anger and bitterness was exhausting, and I'm ready to let that go. As I prepare for this move, I've been thinking about everything that has happened. 3 years ago, I believed my life was over. I had lost everything, including the people I loved most. But now I can see how much I've grown from that experience. I'm stronger, more independent, and have a clearer understanding of my own worth than I ever did before. I don't know what the future holds for me and my family. We plan to stay in touch after I relocate, with weekly phone calls and visits during the holidays. It's a beginning. Maybe, with time and distance, we'll be able to build something new. For now, my focus is on the future. I'm excited about my new job, the new city, and the opportunities waiting for me. I've started looking at apartments online and researching the area where I'll be living. It's a mix of excitement and nervousness, but overall I'm looking forward to this next chapter of my life. No matter what happens with my family, I know I'll be okay. I've proven to myself that I can handle whatever life throws at me. And I have learned how important it is to surround myself with people who believe in me and support me, whether we're related by blood or not.